video is actually about how I veneer speaker cabinets, and as you can see I've already done them. So what you're going to see is how I got to this point. I haven't sanded these yet. I always fit my foam and bits and pieces inside before I sand them, because the sanding is the final finish before you oil the cabinets, so I don't want to then be throwing them around, putting foam in them and rubber and bits and pieces like that. But this panel deadening arrangement I came up with a number of years ago just works so well. It really does. It's obviously thick MDF, neoprene rubber and open cell foam, and it's a fantastic system. Anyway, right, let's get on with the video. Right, so this is a big sheet of veneer, American oak, that I am using to veneer a pair of my HA36s. And even though the cabinets are identical, I've identified one as A and one as B. So when I mark out the veneer, you kind of have to obviously visualize how it's going to be on the cabinet. So my cabinets are 25 centimeters deep, so I've marked 26 centimeters, so I have a little bit of overlap each side, drawn a line all the way along. I'm using the machined edge as the front, so this machined edge will be the front of the other. So I'm going to have an offcut in the middle, but I'll use that for the edge banding of the bezel. And then I've marked out, so my cabinets are 50 centimeters tall, so I've marked out 51. They're 25 centimeters wide, so I've marked out 26, 51 for the other side, and 26 for the base, and then 51 by 26 for the back panel. And I've marked this as the top, this will be the right, and this will be the left side. So my arrows face forward and up, forward, forward and up. So the grain will continuously run round the right side, across the top and down on the left. You don't want too much of a margin here, because the grain pattern does change, and if you make these panels too wide, you want some overlap, otherwise if you misalign things, you've got no room for error at all. But you don't want it too wide, otherwise your grain won't match. So yeah, setting it out is key. And this is the other speaker, top, left side, as if you're looking at it from this side, right side, and base and back again. So yeah, I'll just cut it up with scissors, and then it's ready to be glued to the cabinets. Right, so that's all my panels cut, ready for each speaker, and I've also sliced down some veneer for the edge banding around the bezel. Right, so this is the bit that I'm going to need to go around the edges of the cabinet to flush trim the overlapping veneer. You have a bearing there that stops the blade going digging into the cabinet, and that's completely flush with the bearing, and that is what is kind of essential really. That goes in my router table. I've got a rabbiting bit in there at the moment, so get that in there, and then the router's ready to trim off the excess around the edges. Right, so this is what I use in terms of glue. I use EvoStix impact adhesive. You paint this on both surfaces, so the back of the veneer and the cabinet, and then you leave it for at least 20 minutes, and then when you introduce the two together you get an instant bond. And that's my preferred method of doing it. There's a couple of ways, other ways you can do it. You can also coat both sides in PVA and let that dry, and then iron it, and that gives you a pretty instant bond. Obviously you can just PVA it straight away, clamp it, and leave it that way, but this allows you to do a whole cabinet in one go. So paintbrush to apply this stuff, both sides, and then once you've got it in place, a roller to go over the whole lot and really flatten it down, and a sanding block just for the edges after you've done your router work. Smells good. Just be careful with bits you've already done, because it kind of dries quite quickly and then it just starts pulling. You also want to make sure you cover everything really well, especially the edges, because if they start lifting up, the veneer will just split. Like I say, once I've coated both of these and the two backs, I'll set a timer for 20 minutes, and then I can apply the veneer, trim that off, and then what I'll probably do then is the top and bottoms next, and then trim them off, and then the sides. So it's a bit of a process, but using this stuff, which basically as soon as you introduce the two materials together bond straight away, means that you can just keep working. You don't have to leave it ages for glue to dry, you can just crack on. So I can veneer a cabinet in a couple of hours. Up your brush in between applications while you're waiting for it to dry, so your brush doesn't go hard. So the reason for these is to just allow the same gap here as I'm going to have when I put the side on. So I do glue opposite sides so I can put them on, you know, turn the cabinet round. If I did one at a time, it would just sort of one side at a time, it would take ages. Just means that you can only roll on one at a time, but that's fine. Nice. Come back to that side. And you get one shot at this, because once it bonds, that's it. Right, so that is these two veneered. So what I'll now do is give that glue overnight to properly cure, and then they'll get sanded down to 400 grit. So yeah, it's quite tricky with a really tight grain like this to keep it running round, to sort of book match it. But yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, so like I say, then it's just sanding and lacquering, oiling, whatever finish you choose really. Right, just to wrap this video up, these have been sanded now and they've had one coat of Danish oil and they've come up really nicely. Really nicely. So I've got the holes to drill through the back, fit the binding posts, and then give them a listen up. But yeah, lovely. I do find light veneers quite tricky, especially when the grain is so tight as well. Just lining it up, you can see it's lined up pretty well. Yeah, in amongst the veneering yesterday, I made up all the covers for this pair of speakers. My client wanted two different finishes. He supplied the cloth, which I think has come from mainly tannoy. Very difficult to work with. It's got a very obvious weave to it, so keeping that straight is quite tricky. In fact, if I lay them flat. I've used this cloth before on a pair of Magisters many years ago. Yeah, nice. Perfect. There you go. There, the baffles all done for this pair of HA36s as well. Some tape over the ribbon tweeters because they're very delicate. While I work on them, yeah, all ready to go together.